All right, the next one. I should probably figure out what these are about. Pause. It's going to be a lot of pauses in this video, I can just tell. Editing me is going to have a field day. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my anticipated releases so far announced this year. So as per usual in videos like this, I have quite a few, but there's not as many as there has been in past years, I will say. And this year it's pretty normal this time of year. Most of my releases that I'm excited about have come out or will come out in the first half of the year because either the second half of the year hasn't been announced yet, or it's just like, you know, the first half is really what I focus on and what I know about right now. So of course there's going to be things that keep getting added onto this list throughout the year as things come out. But right now, these are the ones that are like top of TBR for me. And compared to last year's, like the last couple of years when I've done videos like this, pretty small-ish lists. I mean, I'm looking at my list now and it's not small, but like comparatively the ones that like I'm super excited about, it's relatively smaller. So either I am focusing on past books, like I don't know, I just think I'm not in the know, but either way, these are the ones that I'm very excited about, and let's dive in. So per usual, at this point, the books that I'm excited about that came out in January are already out. So the very first book that came out that I was very excited about is the new Talia Hibbert book, and that is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. This is her first step, I think it's her first step, into YA. I love the Brown Sisters trilogy. It's still one of my favorite books series of all time. And I have enjoyed other things that I've read by her, not nearly as much, but this, like I said, is her first step into the YA realm. And honestly, I will read anything by Talia Hibbert. I still want to read her entire backlogged books as well. But right now, this is her newest one, and I am beyond excited. I'll see if I can squeeze it in February. We'll see. It just kind of depends. This book follows our two main characters, Bradley and Celine. And they used to be friends when they were younger. Bradley is like the football star of the school, and he's got like straight A's in every single class except for the one that he has with Celine. And Celine thinks badly of him because in her mind, he ditched her to go hang out with the popular kids, and she was too much for him. So she signs up for this, it says a two-part survival course in the woods, and they end up getting teamed up together. So not only do they have to work together to survive in said woods, lots of stuff I'm sure from their past comes up to the surface. So I love a good Talia Hibbert book. It sounds, based on the back, it's going to be as like sassy and fun as the Brown Sisters trilogy. So I'm so excited about this, and I'm going to try to squeeze this in as soon as possible because I think I'm going to love it. I love this author so much. And then the other one that came out in January that I'm excited about is the most recent one in the Wayward Children's series by Shauna McGuire, and this is Lost in the Moment and Found. This is the 8th book in the series, and with the last couple of books, what she's liked to do is they become more standalone type stories versus in the past she's had stories that have talked about certain characters that we've come to know. So this series follows this home. It's called the Wayward Children's Home, and it's run by a woman who went through a door when she was younger, kind of like Alice in Wonderland, the kids from Narnia, that kind of stuff. And a lot of kids go through doors to whatever respective world, and then some of them get kicked back into the world they came from, and their parents don't know what to do with them. They think they're telling lies. They think that like they've just sort of imagined these things. And so they send them to this school under the impression that the school is going to, you know, kind of help them readjust back to regular life. Whereas the woman's like, I'm going to tell the parents that, but actually when you're here, you do whatever you want. This is basically when you're just hanging out. You're learning some basic life skills that maybe you didn't pick up from before you went through the door, but otherwise you're here to be you. I'm going to let you do whatever you want while we're waiting for your door, which may or may not show back up. So some books take place at this school and some books take place in a respective world. This one takes place in a world. It's called The Shop, and it's Where Lost Things Go. And this one specifically follows our main character, Antoinette. So I don't know a whole lot about this one. I just really enjoy the series. I love all the different takes on this really fun, fantastical world. And this is the newest one, and it always comes out in January. I've noticed she releases one a year at this point. It's been pretty consistent for the past like 3 or 4. So I'm excited to see what the next step is. A lot of people don't like her books just because they are so short, but I've really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed the fantasy world, and this is just the newest installment, and I'm very excited. Okay, now we're getting into ones that actually aren't out yet. So starting off February, this is one I don't know if it's going to actually be a thing or not, but I wanted to mention it because according to Goodreads, it's coming out on the 2nd, and that is the 5th and final volume of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. There's not even a cover yet, which is why I'm thinking it's probably not, because as of recording this, that's in like a week. So the fact that there's not even a cover released yet makes me think that it's not actually going to come out this year, or maybe not in February. It might be pushed back to later this year, but there's still a chance that it could come out, so I did want to mention it. This is a graphic novel series that I have just fallen in love with. I think the world has fallen in love with, especially since Netflix did an adaptation of the first volume, and they've got at least, I think, 2 more seasons confirmed, which makes me very excited. But it basically follows our 2 main characters, Nick and Charlie. The first one really follows them kind of getting into a relationship. It's about finding yourself. It's about finding your people. The first one really deals with discovering your own sexuality, and then some other novels as we continue, or some other volumes as you continue throughout, deal on some other kind of tougher subjects, but this is the conclusion, according to the author. Now, I think it's been out because this is a webcomic that you can read online, so I could go there and read it, but I just love having the physical copies, so I don't know when we're going to get it, but I think it's been finished, or at least completed, for a while, so maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't actually know, but this is one that I'm very excited about, but I don't know if we're going to get anytime soon, just again because we're so close to the date, and there's not a cover yet, but I did want to mention it because I am very excited about getting our final edition, or our final installment with these characters that I've just come to love so much. The next one is from an author that I love so much, and that is Katie Robert. And the 4th in the Dark Olympus series, Radiant Sin, is coming out. And this one is coming out on the 7th of February. This is a series I've talked a lot about in the last few years, just because I've come to really love them. And this is a series that basically takes different mythological, specifically Greek mythology characters and or myths, and kind of reinvents them in this new world that the author has created. So this one follows Apollo and Cassandra, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but it seems like it's going to have some fake dating in it, because Cassandra basically comes from like a fallen house, the 13, which was like the rulers, the big bads, if you will, in this world, have kind of like, maybe not taken it out on her, but like because of stuff that they've done, her house has suffered from it. And so she teams up with Apollo, and Apollo says, if you just do this one thing, you kind of like show up at this party, I think, hosted by one of the dangerous new powers of the 13, and become like his +1 to be kind of like an undercover spy, then you can go and I will help you leave the city, and you can do whatever you want. You and your sister can, escape this city, because it's really hard to escape this city. So she's like, sure, fine, okay. And of course, there's going to be a romance of sorts within this book. But again, I've loved the Dark Olympus series. It's definitely my favorite series by Katie Robert, for sure. I've just really enjoyed this series, and I'm excited to get some more additions in this, because she's churning these out like 2 a year at this point. So I'm excited for that one. The next one, coming out on February 28th, is Lola at Last, and this is by J.C. Peterson. This is a companion to Being Mary Bennett by the same author that I read last year. It doesn't say, like, on Goodreads, it's not part of the same series or anything, but it follows the same kind of characters. And that one was a very roughly inspired tale by Pride and Prejudice. It just kind of like, the plot itself is not Pride and Prejudice, but there are aspects to it that are taken from Pride and Prejudice, and like the sister dynamics and stuff like that. This one follows Lola, who I believe is the youngest. She plays like, she's the equivalent of the Lydia character in the Pride and Prejudice story, and she's had kind of quite the summer. She sets a boat on fire by accident, so she's given an ultimatum: jail time or to spend the summer at this nonprofit called Hype Like a Girl. So she does it, and everyone thinks that she's not going to last, and so she's determined to last, and she finds unexpected friends and possibly a romance and stuff like that. So it's really more of a coming of age story, if you will, or like a discovering who you are kind of story, because Lola is a little all over the place, and we got hints of it in the last book, but this is one that I just fell head over heels for that story, and Lola as a character was real fun to read about. So I'm excited for her to get her due. And so that one's coming out at the end of the month. There's a couple more that actually also come out on February 28th. The next one's called Immortality, a love story, and this is by Dana Schwartz. And this one is the second in the Anatomy series by this author. I read Anatomy in, I think, October last year. I read it at the end of last year, and I fell head over heels for it. So this book or book series follows our main character Hazel, who in the first one really wants to be a doctor, a surgeon, I believe specifically, but a doctor. But because she's female, in a time where females were not thought highly of per se, she was kind of laughed out of a lot of places, but she was given the chance in the first one to do so. And so in this book specifically, it takes place almost right after the other one. There are some other things mixed up in it that I won't talk about because it's spoilers for the first one. But basically what happens is she tries to save a life and ends up getting arrested, but instead of rotting in prison, she is specifically requested to be the personal physician of Princess Charlotte, who is the sickly daughter of George IV. And so she gets dragged to a very glamorous court. So it's probably going to have all of the same kind of, not gory, because they weren't particularly gory, but definitely bodily anatomy kind of doctoral grossness stuff, but put in royals with it as well. And so I just adored the first one, so I'm really excited about this one, and I just can't wait. I think it's gonna be great because, again, the first one was amazing. All right, the only one I've got on here for March is another Katie Robert book, and this is the Gargoyles Captive. This is the third in her Deal with the Demon series. There's 4. Technically, the fourth one's already out because it came within like a companion series where like multiple authors wrote for the same series. So that one's already out, but this is the third one, and I kind of wanted to read them in order, so I've been putting off reading the fourth one until this one comes out. And this one comes out on March 28th. And this one, like I said, is part of the Deal with the Demon series. And the series basically follows a bunch of different women who are in a rough situation because of, you know, X, Y, and Z, and they make a deal with a demon for, like, he'll do something for them, whatever it is, based on their rough situation, and they will give 7 years of their life to him, and they will basically be put on auction to be auctioned away to something within this realm. So this one obviously is going to follow the gargoyle and the woman that is auctioned to him. I've read the first 2 books in this series, and while they both were only like 3.5 stars, I'm still interested in this world, so I keep reading them. But this is one that I'm excited about. It's coming out, like I said, in March, so we will get to that one a little bit later this year. And they're real short, so they're really easy to get through, but they are all like monster romances, so you have to kind of like, there's definitely some stuff there. But Katie Robert is really good about putting every single possible trigger warning in the beginning of her book, and it's also listed on her website. So if you're ever interested in any of her books, go there because she lists them out in detail so that you know what you're getting into, which in a few cases has been very helpful. The next one is the 4th in a series that I have just loved so much, and that is To Swoon and To Spar. And this is the 4th in the Regency Vows series by Martha Waters, and this one comes out on April 11th. So I have the first 3, and I'm hoping to get to the 3rd one, which is the only one I haven't read yet, in February, so we'll see. But this one is one of the ones, because she announced that she was doing 3, and then now she's announced that there's going to be a few more added. And so this is the most recent one, and I am so excited because I love her writing style. But this one follows a guy named Pinvale. He's a Viscount, and all he wants to do is have his ancestral home back. His uncle is in charge of it right now, and so he's been trying so hard to buy it back from his uncle. And his uncle finally relents and says, yes, okay, you can have it. However, in order to get it, you have to marry my ward, whose name is Jane Spencer. So they meet up in London, and they both don't get along. They can't stand each other, but they agree to this marriage of convenience and name only kind of thing. And they go to this estate, and she starts to team up with the housekeeper to kind of create some like situations that seem to be like fake hauntings. I'm hoping to scare off the husband so he will go back to London, and then she can kind of stay in the country and relax and just kind of live out her life happily and to her kind of the way that she wants to. But this guy, of course, is not as easily to scare off as maybe her uncle was for certain things in the past. So it's definitely a marriage of convenience, a hate to love situation, which are both tropes that I very much enjoy. And again, I really didn't need to know what it was about to want to read it just because of the author in the series, but it does sound like really, really good. So I am very excited about this one, and I just adding all of the historical romance to my shelves because I just love them. I think they're so funny. The writing is really funny. The next one is one that I am interested in because of the author. I think he's going to do some really interesting things with this book, but the synopsis of it, I'm like, could be really good and could be like the weirdest thing I've ever read. And that is In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. And this one comes out on the 25th of April. This one is about robots, basically. So we follow 3 robots who live together and a human that lives with them. So you have it says here, a fatherly inventor robot named Geo, a pleasantly sadistic nurse machine, and a small vacuum, desperate for love and attention, and then Victor, who is the human that lives with them. And they live up in these trees, and they're all kind of protected and away from people. And then one day, Vic salvages an unfamiliar robot labeled Hap, and it discovers that Hap and Geo have had a past together, and that past was hunting humans. And so something happens, and somehow this new machine accidentally alerts people of their presence. And so their little sanctuary is completely disturbed. So I don't know what that means. I have no idea what's going to happen, but it does feel very sci-fi because of the robots and everything. And I don't think I read it nearly as much as maybe I used to, but in the last year I feel like I've read a good chunk. So I am interested in this one. It could be the bizarrest thing I've ever read, but I trust TJ Klune. I've really enjoyed the books that he's written in the past. So I don't know what I'm getting into, but it could be great. I think it could be great. The next one is our newest book by Emily Henry, and that is Happy Place. And this one comes out on the 25th of April as well. And this one is a fake dating of sorts. We follow 2 of our main characters, Harriet and Wren, who broke up months ago, but for the sake of a traditional like vacation with their friends, they don't want to like put a damper on it, so they pretend to be dating still when they're going on this vacation. And I'm sure shenanigans galore and things were going to come out. But just the idea of like, it's like fake dating because they are pretending to be dating, but they used to date. So I'm like, I don't really even know what that falls under. But I love Emily Henry. The books that I've read so far by her have been amazing, and another one of those authors that it doesn't matter what she writes, I'm gonna want to read it. But this one honestly sounds really good, and the fake dating is another one of my favorite tropes. So I'm really interested to see how this is gonna go and what interesting shenanigans and deeper conversations we're gonna get in this book, because she's really good at doing both of those things. The next one is one, again, due to the author. I feel like a lot of these are going to be due to the author. This is the first book in May. It comes out on the 2nd. And that is Imogen, obviously. And it's by Becky Albertalli. I have loved almost all the things that I've read by Becky Albertalli. I haven't really read a lot of her books that she's written with someone else. But this is her newest standalone as far as like just her writing. And it takes place, I think it's YA, but I think it's more... leans more towards maybe older YA, because it seems like it takes place in both high school and college. We follow our main character Imogen, and it says right here, Imogen Scott may be hopelessly heterosexual, but she's got the world's greatest ally title locked down. So it's her and some of her friends. We've got Lily, who is newly out and thriving, and then her other friend Gretchen, who kind of keeps her in check. And so Imogen is thrilled for Lily when she goes to visit her on campus. And then she discovers that Lily's been telling some lies, that she and Lily and Imogen used to date, even though Imogen's like, I am very, very straight. So she is trying to be a good best friend and kind of play along. And then she meets one of Lily's friends, whose name is Tessa, and starts to maybe rethink some things. So I think it is going to be a kind of a coming of age story, which I think Becky Albertalli does really, really well, discovering Imogen, kind of discovering her sexuality, that kind of stuff. But I also am obsessed with this cover. I think it's beautiful. So I would have read it because of Becky Albertalli, but this honestly sounds so, so good. And I really love I love her writing. I think it's very well done. I can go through these books in like a day. She's a writer that I can like devour so quickly. The next one is the newest book by one of my favorite writing duos, which is Christina Lauren, and that is The True Love Experiment, and this one comes out on the 16th. So this one takes a documentary filmmaker and a romance novelist and kind of like combines them into kind of working, or forces them to work together to create a reality TV show. So you have Felicity Fizzy Chin, who, like I said, is a romance author. She goes by Fizzy, that's what I meant by the fizzy part. And so she's a romance author and realizes once she's doing commencement speak that she's never actually been in love, and so she's not really quote unquote practiced what she's preached. So you've got her side and she's kind of like figuring stuff out. And then you've got Connor Prince, who, like I said, is a documentary filmmaker. And so one day his boss is like, nope, you're going to write a show about romance. And he's like, what? And so he ends up accidentally running into Fizzy one day, and they strike up this agreement of sorts where he will shoot a reality TV show type thing about Fizzy falling in love and finding the one. And so their collaboration begins. So I'm interested in this because Connor is a single father, so you've got that element to it as well. You've got the TV element. You've got these two not feuding, but these two people who write such vastly different things working together. And then, of course, they're gonna probably, based on all romances, fall for each other, and just seeing how that's going to play out, I think, is going to be very interesting. And the next one coming out on May 23rd is The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson. This is the second in the HMRC series, and I loved the first one. I talked about it a lot. It was definitely one of my favorite books from last year. I realized I just said HMRC, and you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Her Majesty's Royal Coven is what that stands for. And that was the first book, and it basically follows these four women during this time of upheaval, I guess, in their world. So basically in this world, women have a lot of the magical powers that are the strongest come from women. And so they have this HMRC, or this royal coven, that, you know, mundane people see as just like a tax department, but it's actually the like ruling government ministry of magical people with magical powers, specifically women. There's a male version of it too, but the coven is specifically for women. And so within this, we follow four women who grew up together, and have kind of gone their separate ways, and they're all having to kind of come back to, some of them are working together, some of them are polar opposites, and it's at this time where there's this potential really strong evil force that one person sees one way and another person sees the other way. And then it just dives into much more deeper conversations about trans rights and the trans community and things like that. So I'm very interested to see where the second one goes, because I loved the first one so much, and it ended on like one of the biggest cliffhangers ever. And I honestly, at the time I read it, it was supposed to come out in like, I think January or February, but it got pushed back, and like, I'm not so sure my soul is okay with this. But out of all the books I'm looking at my list here, I think this is the book that I would drop everything and read. So when this one comes out in June, be prepared for me to drop everything and read this book, because I just am so invested in these characters and the story that our author has created. It was so good. It was so good. Okay, coming out on the 6th of June, we're starting our June books now, is the 4th volume of Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith. This is a series that I've just really enjoyed. It's a graphic novel series. You can read this series online if you want. It is, I think you can find it somewhere online, but it's also on the, I think it's called Webtoons app if you'd like. It's a free app. I've actually read a few things there myself. That's where I discovered this, but she's been putting them out in volumes, and it's a series that follows the Hades and Persephone story, but it gives it a more modernized look as far as like the setting goes. It's definitely set in like an urban city, but they are still the gods, and it does have conversations that are, Greek mythology is not particularly the friendliest to women specifically, but just in general. And so she's does a really good job of not steering away from that. But this is the most recent volume within the series. I don't think I've read the third one quite yet, so hopefully we'll get to that one before this one comes out. But I just think that sounds so good. Hello, future Kelsey. Here, I realized while editing this video that I forgot one, and I'm a little bitter at myself for forgetting it, so I thought I'd mention it now. And this one actually comes out on the 20th of June, which is real dumb because it's my birthday, so you think I'd remember that. But this is the most recent book, or the newest book, by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which is an author that I love, and it's called Business or Pleasure. And this one's about a ghostwriter, and she is very excited about, she loves being a ghostwriter, she has no problem with that, and she ends up going to a convention, or I guess it's a convention, for the book that she ghost wrote with somebody else, and the person who she wrote for doesn't even acknowledge that she wrote the book or helped in any way. So she's really distraught and ends up having this random one-night stand, super awkward random one-night stand with this guy that she like hits off with while she's there. And it's super awkward, and she's like, that's it, you know, whatever, I'm never going to see him again. But her next project is ghostwriting a book for a C-list actor, and he's most known for playing this like super nerdy guy on like a very popular werewolf teen drama kind of story, and it's the guy that she had the one-night stand with. So she's like, we're going to keep it very professional, we're not going to get into anything else, and she lets slip that it wasn't like the best night ever, and he's a little shooketh by this. So they kind of create a bargain of sorts, a pact of sorts, that when they're not writing on the book, she's going to help him in the art of, and the back says, I quote, satisfaction. So it's going to be a mixture of like, I guess it's going to be like friends with benefits in a way, because like she's going to be teaching him how to be better at sex, I assume, while they're also writing this book together. So it sounds super fun. I love Rachel Lynn Solomon's books. Everything that I've read so far by her has been amazing, and this cover is beautiful, and I'm so mad at myself that I forgot it. But we're remedying that because I'm so excited about this one, and this might just be a birthday present to myself from myself. We shall see, but I am super excited about this one. The next one is the only other one that's coming out in June. This one comes out on the 27th, and there's not really a synopsis yet for it, so I'm interested to see what's actually going to be about. But it's Manslaughter Park by Tirzah Price. This is the third in the Jane Austen murder mystery series. I've read the first two, which is Pride and Premeditation, and then Sense and Second Degree Murder. And it's basically the author taking the stories of Jane Austen and giving it a fun new twist with a murder mystery element to it as well. This one is obviously based on Mansfield Park, which is not my favorite Jane Austen story. It's actually, I think, my least favorite Jane Austen story, but it is, again, a murder mystery that just takes those characters. So I'm very interested to see what this is going to look like. I can't seem to find a synopsis of it, but honestly, that's fine because it's a murder mystery that follows Jane Austen. Like, I loved the first two in the series. I'm clearly going to continue. The next one, coming out on August 8th, is the fifth in the Dark Olympus series by Katie Robert, and that is Cruel Seduction. This one seems like it follows a lot of people, so we follow the kind of a modern retelling of Aphrodite and Hephaestus, but it also has Pandora and Adonis in it as well. So this story, I can't tell if it's like a couple, like two stories of like there's two couples, or it's going to be one giant like 4-person couple, because she's done triples in the past, but I've never seen anything beyond that. So I don't really know what it's going to turn into. But Aphrodite is basically forced in a way to marry Hephaestus, or the new person who has become Hephaestus. He's one of the 13, and she cannot stand him. And so in a way of getting back to him, she is seducing Pandora, who I believe is, it says here, is the one person he seems to care most about in the world. And he's like, fine, you can play this game. So he starts seducing her ex, Adonis. And then, of course, hearts get involved, and I don't know where that's going to go. But same thing that I said earlier in this video when I was talking about the fourth one, Dark Olympus, one of my favorites in, like, my favorite series by Katie Robert. I really enjoy all the Greek myth retellings of such. So yeah, I'm gonna read it. I'm very excited about it. The next one is one that I am so very excited about. This is definitely one of the ones that are higher up on my TBR, and that is Kissing Kosher. This is by Jean Meltzer, and this one's coming out on the 29th of August. This is an author that I have fallen in love with based on one book, so I'm gonna hope to get to the other one that she's got out soon, but this is her most recent one, and they all have a chronic illness representation in some way, and they all have a character that is Jewish within it as well. So this one specifically follows Evita Cohen, and she has chronic pelvic pain. So she is managing, she can't really do anything. So like any kind of dream that she had, specifically like her photography career, has had to take a backseat because of her chronic pain. And so she manages her family's kosher bakery. And so you've got her, and she really needs help. She can't do it alone. So she hires this guy named Ethan. However, he's working undercover. His grandfather basically like forced him to go work for this company, and his grandfather is a rival baker. And so Ethan is basically there to be undercover, but as he's baking alongside Avidal, he's like, I think starts to fall for her. So I'm interested to see where that goes. I love a good baking story. This can always be fun. It's definitely giving me like Hallmark vibes, just because I feel like any kind of Christmas Hallmark movie is going to be based on someone's bakery. So I'm interested to see what happens there, and if my love for Gene Meltzer will continue, or if it was a one-off. I'm thinking it wasn't. I have this suspicious feeling that it's just going to be so good. I'm so excited. The next one also comes out on August 29th, and that is Never Hero by Vanessa Lynn. This is the second in the monster series. The first one was Only a Monster, which is one that I got from a Fairy Loot sometime early last year, I want to say, and read and really enjoyed. So I'm very excited about this one. Because the sequel, there's not a whole lot I could tell you about it. But the first one basically follows our main character, Joan, and she is sent one summer to kind of live with her mother's side of the family, her late mother's eccentric family. But while she's there, she discovers that she has some fantastical genes, and they all come from monsters, or they're all considered monsters. And so she ends up going on the run because there's a monster hunter out to get her. So there's a lot there. It's a lot of fantastical elements, but again, I fell head over heels in love with the first book. I did not realize I was going to enjoy it nearly as much as I did, and it was amazing. So I'm excited about this one. Like I said, this is the second one. I think there's going to be 3 in this series, so it is a trilogy, but I loved it. I loved the first one. It took me by surprise so much. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one a try. The next one comes out on September 12th. And this is the third and final book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. This is one that just very recently got added to my anticipated reading list because I read Once Upon a Broken Heart in January. I fell in love with this series, and I'm hoping to get to the second one very soon. So the fact that there is the third and final one is coming out this year is perfect, because then there's not a lot of time between the first 2 and the last book. So I really enjoyed this series. It follows our main character, Evangeline Fox, who basically makes a deal with this thing called a fate. He's the Prince of Hearts. His name is Jax, and in this world, fates are kind of considered, and the equivalent of my head is like they're basically gods minus the immortality part of it. And Jax has been cursed. They all have like something that you go to different fates for different things, and he is the kind of the fate of broken hearts. So you go to him with any kind of love issue. And so Evangeline Fox is convinced that her true love is marrying somebody else, and she's not okay with this. So she goes to Jax to basically like stop the wedding, and he says, okay, I'll stop the wedding in exchange for 3 kisses. And so throughout the book, he picks people, because like if you kiss him, you die unless you're his true love. So for him, he picks 3 people that you kiss, and he says when and where, and he basically says, okay, so kiss that person in the next hour or you die. And so she has to kind of do that. So I loved it. There was a lot of twists and turns in this one, so I'm excited to see what the second one holds, but I'm very excited for the third one as well. I think it's just a fun trilogy that I didn't expect to love as much as I did, and I'm very excited for the final book in it. The next one doesn't have a cover yet, but it comes out on the 19th of September, and that is The Gentleman's Gambit by Evie Dunmore. This is the most recent, and I think the final book in the League of Extraordinary Women series. It basically is 4 books that follows different women in this friend group. They're all part of the Oxford suffragette movement. This one specifically follows Catriona, and she is kind of given up on love. She's had not the best luck in the past. And so She ends up having to play hostess to this guy named Elias, who is her dad's colleague. And so Elias has a whole plot on his own. He has kind of forced his way into the circles of her father under false pretenses. He is an ancient artifacts, I believe, professor, and Elias is actually there to steal the ancient artifacts from him and take it back to his home in the Middle East. So he's hoping that winning the favor of this guy's daughter will help him do that. But of course, she is more strong-willed and educated than he expected her to be. So the relationship there is going to take some turns, but I think it's finally coming out. It's been kind of like in the works for a couple of years, but I think this is the year, because before we've never given like an exact date. It was like, oh, it might come out in May or in this month, but it was never given a date. So if there's a date now, I'm very excited about it. I haven't pre-ordered this one yet just because I don't want to get it and then it get pushed back again and again. So I'll probably wait until we become closer, maybe when there's a cover that comes out. But I've loved the series. The other three are literally right there and I've loved them so much. So I'm hoping that we finally get the conclusion to this series because it's been a long time coming. The last book that I want to talk about is actually a Cassandra Clare book, believe it or not, and this is Swordcatcher. This is her first step into adult fantasy, and this one comes out on September 23rd. This is the first, and I don't know how long of a series, but she's an author that I have read. I read the Clockwork Princess series. What the heck is that called? And I did really enjoy it, but with the kind of that whole Shadowhunter world being so immense and there's just a lot to it, you don't really know where to start, and so I don't really want to get involved in such a long world right now. But I've been really interested in her writing, and the fact that she's writing a new book in the adult world, I'm very excited about. So this book follows our two main characters, Kel and Lynn. And Kel is a sword catcher, which basically means he is the body double of the prince. He studies with the prince, he knows combat, he and the prince are as close as brothers, but his goal in life is basically to die for the prince. So you've got him, but he's always kind of thought about what the future would hold for him if he wasn't this sword catcher body double person. And then you've got Lynn, who is part of a small community that has magical abilities, but they're forced to stay behind a certain wall just to protect, I think, the world from them. So I'm sure there's some stigma with that. But one of her best friends is very, very sick. And so she uses her skills to kind of help cure people. And the only way to cure her friend is to access this forbidden knowledge. And so some stuff happens. I don't know what that is, but somehow Lynn and Kel team up together and they end up going to like the underbelly side of the city to both help them for what they want. So I'm thinking that like this underbelly side will maybe give him a future and give her the knowledge that she seeks to save her friend. But I think as with most books, what they know about the monarchs or the political system is totally different, so some secrets are going to come out. So again, I don't know how long this series is. I feel like she said it was a trilogy, if I'm correct, but there's only 2 planned right now, so maybe there's only 2. But it looks like a shorter one for her, which is a good, I think, way to step in and really give her a chance. And also, this just sounds really good. She was talking about this when my best friend Lauren and I went to Y'all Fest last November, and I don't remember what she said, but there are things that she was talking about. This world was fascinating, and it made me really, really want to read it. So I looked it up, and it sounds amazing. So yes, this is one I'm going to give her a chance, and I'm excited to see what she does with adult books, because I don't think she's ever written anything adult. She's only written YA and I think a couple middle grade before. So I think this is her first step into the adult world, and I am very excited to see what she does with that. And that's it. Those are all of the books as of right now that I'm excited about, my anticipated releases of 2023. Like I said, this one ends in September, so there's still like 3 months of the year that I don't know anything that's coming out. So there's definitely more that will be added to this list, but that's what I've got right now. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. Please let me know what your anticipated releases of the year are. I would love to know. Do any of yours align with mine? Do you know of some stuff that's coming out in the last half of the year? I would love to know, because again, the last half of the year is real slim. It's just that's the way it is with me. I know what's coming out early on and not what's coming out later. So let me know some of the stuff that you guys are excited to read. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!